or negative, you take one bean and put it aside. For example, if you decide that okay, you do something, you think about something, but don't force yourself to think about it. Just sit still. Just sit still and be like have this kind of alertness. Expect that it's like like when hunters sitting in bushes, and waiting for animal to come. So it's like you're sitting and you're not forcing any thought, but you're just looking. And then when you have a thought that you can clearly see, like for example, you think about like, okay, what I'm going to have for dinner. This is a thought. Or like, it's really difficult to sit here, or like I'm bored, or like it was night supper, or I want to sleep, like anything. And then there is like feeling behind it. Is this like pleasant? Does it give you discomfort? Do you have like reaction to your thought? For example, you think about somebody and then you have feeling of happiness. Then okay, this is a positive emotion. So you take one bean and like you put it in aside, and then you have some other like the thoughts can come very fast or slow depending, and then you see it and you think I'm bored, and there is like feeling behind this, if it's discomfort or you consider it as a positive or negative. And then if it's negative, for example, you take bean of different color and put it to different pile. So and whenever you have that thought or feeling that is positive, you take one bean of certain color and put it in one pile. And for negative thoughts one pile, for positive thoughts other piles. Sometimes there are like thoughts that does not have feeling behind it. It's just like you notice something and like the thoughts came and went away. So there is no need to examine it. But first try to notice like strong something that is easy to notice. Like you, but first you just sit still and wait. But don't force yourself to think about something. Wait. It's like in practice of shamatha. But in practice of shamatha, we try to ignore at the beginning those thoughts. We concentrate on object, but those thoughts still appear. So sooner or later, when you relax, thoughts will start appearing. And when you notice them, and especially when there is feeling behind the thought, consider it, classify it negative, positive, and build like two different piles depending on what thoughts are you having. So this exercise, it's actually helping to turn your attention inside, because usually like when we say like look in your mind, like look at your mind and look what's going on with your mind, but it's very difficult to do sometimes, especially for new practitioners. But this exercise actually helps you to turn your attention inside very fast, like because you're sitting and waiting, and then you you notice, and then like you make like check, okay, this is positive, this is negative. And whether it's positive or negative, try not to continue it. Like if it's negative thought, like if it's anger, for producing anger, don't try to analyze it right now. Just okay, this is anger, and I just put this into pile of things. And then later, when we finish this exercise, you can kind of compare what's how big the pile with positive thoughts and how big is the pile from negative thoughts. And so I say this is helps in two ways. First, it helps to turn your attention inside, and another, it actually helps you to see what habits you have, because your thoughts usually it's a production of your habitual tendencies. It's your karma already arising. Okay, so is this clear? Okay, so we'll do this exercise because yesterday we did this exercise that we done next, but um, like sometimes I also do this exercise because um, it's really helpful to check, like how you progress, like how your intentions progressing, whether your intentions are changing, whether you have like new habits of your intentions or no. or sometimes when the mind is tired or not clear, this is also very helpful. You can use like two piles of stones, or like you can check on paper, to make two columns and check on paper. So whatever works for you. But this is really, really, really helpful to start looking inside. Okay, so we'll do 10 minutes only for now. And you decide which is positive, which is negative, like the color, it doesn't matter. So you decide yourself. only 10 years we did, and for first time, I don't know how much you noticed, but it's a really helpful exercise. If you want, if you have questions about this exercise or would like to share anything right now, um, but is it like, does it work for you? Did you, I mean, did you notice anything happening in your mind? Like, is this exercise helpful to turn your mind? Mm-hmm. Mm. And it makes you aware of what you're thinking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course, 10 minutes, it's not enough, but it's just like we don't have much time. It would be good to do this exercise like for entire week, like 4 sessions a day. And then like you would really master, even maybe sooner than in 1 week, you would master your ability to clearly see what what's happening, and then but if you can continue to do this exercise at home, actually you will, this is something that you don't need any much support, like those beans are or stones, they are your support, and you don't need anything special, any special teaching on how to do this exercise. It's just like you do it and you start you will see that you are more aware, and it's because your mind has more clarity, and clarity is your natural quality, and because you're concentrated, even like the beans are support, and you're concentrated on this action. So basically, you don't allow yourself to follow whatever appears in your mind. You notice and you kind of put it aside, and even if the same thought appears again and again and again in your mind, you at least can distinguish. Okay, so there is one thought, there is one arising, there is another. So and that's clarity which kind of sees it, and this clarity, mm, this clarity is a result of concentration, of your concentration, which you apply in this exercise. So, and then you might notice that you have two types of feelings. I mean, two sources of feelings. One is directly connected to your senses, like you see it, and like your physical body might experience discomfort or pleasure, like you might notice certain colors or you hear certain sounds, and like somebody comes into room and you get startled, or like you have reaction, you hear some voices, and so and then so you see there are reactions to whatever you perceive through your body organs, yeah. And another one, when you sit and like you don't pay attention, you're in quiet place, and there are some thoughts and reactions that appear not based on your present experience. And so it's clear, yeah, you understand, like there's something you perceive, and then you have reaction to whatever you perceive. And of course, your reaction also based on your karmic tendencies. Yeah, so differently react to different things, yes. No, I'm not talking about this. No, it's nothing, nothing worse or better. Awareness should be present boss, like, but what I, yes. And
Situational awareness better than thinking.
so you mean situational awareness, you mean when you,
Very positive outcome. Well, that's think that's more reactive.
like you mean, okay, you mean like when there is, okay, uh, okay, situational, you mean like when you are, um, like I just like try to understand like your question.
Someone might ask you to do something. Like you may not know how to do it. You have to figure it out because you don't have a lot of time to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
You come up with a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Like a, positive.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I say it's like solving puzzles at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here we're talking more about reactions, like somebody, like you have a puzzle to kind of to figure out. And what is your, like when you have these obstacles, like you don't know how to do it, what is your reaction? You can be excited, that this is challenge. You can be happy about this, okay? And you can understand this is a way to kind of to um, this is an opportunity to develop more qualities or more knowledge. And that's one thing, you know. And another thing, like when you see this as an obstacle and like obstacle to your goal, and you have irritability, or like you get angry, or like you cannot solve it right away, and you impassioned. I mean, so it's like everything depends on your perception, because obstacles, the challenge can be a great way to develop good qualities. And that's what we are actually do on a path. So when we perceive obstacles, we apply antidotes because we understand it is a way to transform our mind and get rid of negative karma. Or when we have obstacles, we can see, oh, I'm such a bad person, or like it's not right, or like whatever. You can find any excuses not to look inside of your mind. You can blame other people, you can blame your country, you can blame like your neighbors, your dogs, your children, everything, and then does not give solution, because you will still be unhappy, like, or even if somebody will do the way like will do things the way you want, and you will be happy for short time, but the cause of suffering, cause of negative emotion was not uprooted. Yeah, because when you look for solution only from outside, and it does not mean that we don't need to look for solution from outside, it doesn't mean that we should not fix the problem when it is, but we also should look at our reaction, because every reaction builds new habit. Okay, so and this, but what I'm talking about, so the reaction which based on a present situation, yeah, like you, for example, somebody gives you task and you have reaction to that, okay, but another thing, when you sit and like out of nowhere you have this memory when somebody gave you this task, and now when you think about this person you have negative emotion, and that's arising is like totally out of your habitual tendencies. It's arising because it's ripening. That's the seeds ripening um, from your previous from the habits that were created by previous actions. Mhm.
I was thinking this practice, this This practice seems to help us release the habitual tendencies. That's
Transform
Yeah.
habitual. Yeah, you can like releasing, yeah, also to release by transformation. Like so, because there is one way to release when you recognize the nature of mind. So we don't have to do anything, just release, yeah. But there is another way when we don't recognize the natural state of mind, we have this negative or obscured state of mind, for example, and we apply different methods in order to transform our negative habitual tendencies into positive habitual tendencies. So that's how basically we're transforming our negative karma into positive karma, and that will result in other things. So, but what I say, that's we have things, we have reaction, like you know, we also like there are like in prayers of Kuntuzampa, it is says that we have mm, we have, I don't remember exactly, but things that coming from past lifetimes, you know, habits, and these things that come from this lifetime. And things that like habits that come from this lifetime are based on whatever we were taught. And it's connected with our human body, our six senses, you know, like directly, whatever we learn in this lifetime, they connected to experience of our senses, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. We are in situation and we perceive things with our like physical body, and we have reaction to situation directly. Of course, the way we have reaction, it's also based on our habitual tendencies, which we don't even remember. But now it's like more gross. That's that situation and that's reaction. We smell something and we either like it or we don't like it right away. But then you sit, you're meditating, you know, like, and then like you do shamatha or any other practice. And then this memory arising. It might be memory of situation, or it might be just something that triggers, it can be one image arising in your mind, not even situation, and it immediately triggers, it's like shortcut, you know, like you don't have to think about whole situation. You just remember this person, suddenly this image comes, and it's not that you force yourself to remember. It comes because there was habit already planted, you know, and then immediately like you have this reaction right away. It comes like together with that image, you know. So, and that's what I'm talking. So that's based whatever comes from your memory, or like it's not even from, it's like comes arising kind of spontaneously without any situation. And that's an example of karma ripening, or like this karmic seeds ripening. Right now you're sitting, you didn't do anything to remember about this memory just came by itself suddenly. You did not plan to think about this, but that's what I'm talking about. That's karmic seeds ripening while you're sitting still. And that's what I'm talking about. We're trying to recognize what kind of karmic ripening you have tendency to have. Okay, and it's also two things. The thoughts or image is kind of ripening, and then you have reaction to this image. Like I said, this shortcut, this reaction. So it's not even image we are considering; it's reaction. This reaction, image is your karmic ripening, but your reaction is something that you control. Image you cannot control. Like when karma is ripening, so whatever is ripening, and it's not bad or good, you know, but reaction, second thought, you know, second thought or second emotion, which comes after this image. This is something, it's also karmic, ripening due to karmic tendencies, but this is something that you can change. And that's when it says, like when we practice like even Mahamudra, thoughts may be arising, but we don't grasp for them. It means we are not having second thought, or like when we have second thought, we recognize it. We do not grasp. And that's what I'm talking about. So this is also proof that it was like you had these karmic seeds. Otherwise, if you would not have these karmic seeds planted in your mind, when you're sitting, you wouldn't have this thought. You wouldn't have this image. Where does it come from?
This points out the profundity of the Dharma.
Mhm.
And in other words, what strikes me is how this works, although it seems to us to be indirect. It's actually direct. You're actually working with the actual problem because it's our true nature acting in a proper way. But in other words, the idea is if I tell you don't think about rhinoceros, what do you think about? You think about this is our samsaric situation, is we're trying to fix things through our grasping and our ego. It just makes things worse and worse and worse. Like you said, it's feeding the ego. If you're angry at your anger, this is the worldly situation we're all in. But here, if you say to someone, stop the chain of thoughts, that in itself is a thought. So you're just adding to it. There's no end.
Mhm.
But if you say, look at your reactive mind and decide whether that's positive or negative, doesn't make any difference whether you think it's positive or negative. The fact that you're doing that, you're stopping that chain of thought.
Mhm.
But if someone says, stop the chain of thought, you can't do it. So it's just extremely skillful. And it strikes me that this principle that you want to say, or this quality, is throughout all of Dharma. If you think, I want to be, I don't know, if my self-clinging is my problem, if you're thinking about don't be self-clinging, that's just thinking about yourself again.
Mhm.
Whereas, if you're actually doing a simple giving, like in the first perfection, if you're just giving help to someone in that instant, there's no self there. And yet it might just be an instant. Something you said yesterday also very helped me, because we do have this idea of concepts. And yet what you said is that it's not just the mental concept. The Tibetan is actually bigger than that. It also includes our reactive feelings. And I think that's just really important because America is so, we're aware of feelings, sort of. And anyway, everyone's talking about feelings, but we think maybe that concepts are excluded from that, which is wrong. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but it occurred to me, just because I have some book knowledge of this stuff, when they're talking about the mind-only teachings, Yogacarya, they talk about the 8 levels of consciousness, but the first 5 are sensual: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, feelings. The 6th one, though, is the thinking mind. That's what we're talking about here. Because, in other words, when we're doing this meditation with the beings, you hear something, like when that fellow came in and said something. Hearing that is not a fault.
Mhm.
That's just a pure experience. That's fine. But our reaction to that is what we're talking about. Who's there? He shouldn't be there. Or I'm glad someone came to the Dharma Center and came to Dharma. I mean, they're positive and negatives all over the place, but it's our reactive. That's where the problem is, because we're living basically in a reactive state instead of, directly experiencing our own mind. It's just the craziest thing that we do. I also read somewhere, and tell me if this is wrong, but when they talk about, like the peaceful manifestations of the deities are sitting on a moon disk, and the wrathful deities are sitting on a moon disk. It's also on a sun disk. So the sun. Why the sun? It's like it's said that the light of the moon, like you can imagine yourself in India 1,000 years ago, the moon is very calming. It's very peaceful, cooling light. It's like experience or wisdom that we can accept right now and handle and see how it's good. But the sun is this powerful light that maybe we can't handle. So there's been a link, I said, between the first 5 consciousnesses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, the central consciousness. Those are like the moon because they're direct. But it's that 6th consciousness, the thinking one, that gets us in trouble, and is also related to the sun disk because it's so powerful, but it can be a terrible destructive thing at the same time. So at any rate, I very much appreciated when you included in concept. My concept of concepts is now bigger, but helpful. So in our meditation, yeah, any kind of direct experience we're having of the five senses, nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
And it also shows you the fundamental positive of the Dharma, that we're not trying to, like the Buddha trying to kill his mind or something when he did the ascetic practices. You know, that's a mistake. We're neither grabbing onto everything or hating everything, hating ourselves, loving ourselves too much. And the nature of it itself is positive. But again, the indirectness of it is so powerful. You know, if you visualize yourself even just trying, you know, as a deity, you can't sit and try to make it happen. That's the ego trying to do that, because we don't really have confidence until there's some experience that the nature itself is really all we need. We don't need to fix it. We don't need to fix our Buddha nature. We just have to uncover it. And sorry, that's my
Oh, thank you so much. No, that's great.
my seminary tonight.
No, it's great teaching. Thank you. And yeah, and yeah, that's it makes you made it very clear that that's what we're talking about. It's consciousness. Yeah, it's like we have these senses, and then like when we meditate, it's not that we try to avoid everything. It's just like we kind of calm down outer environment, like in order to look into our consciousness. And also, like, this is like, thank you, Frank, for mentioning that there is nothing wrong when we perceive things. We're not trying to avoid, perceiving things. Somebody comes, somebody talks, and we hear it, and we might even have reaction, because I say reaction is also product of like our this automatic kind of this thing like which was like planted, like which we planted seeds for, and that's why we have like negative reaction. We meditate and kids runs into room like asking something and get angry, give me 5 minutes, for myself. And so, and here it comes, so, and here we can see clearly I'm like sitting, but if somebody comes suddenly and disturbs my environment, I get angry, so, but is it right, like I supposed to have like feeling of love, but when I'm interrupted, so, and that's good point to see, because when we like try, it's one thing that whatever we try to believe or whatever we believe we have, but the real I appear when it's unexpected, something unexpected happening. That's a really good way to see what is inside. Like it's happens so fast that yeah, it's good. We have this clear environment, and we are it's good for meditating, for calming mind, but then something happens. What is our first reaction, And so, and the same way, like when we're driving and somebody cuts in front of us, what is the first reaction? Like, and so what's the first word that we say, that is it karma pachino or mani pemehon or something else? So that's also great way to see what is it deep inside. And then maybe next time, like when this happens, and like, okay, so that's my automatic reaction because I heard so many people doing this and I was doing this for so many years. So it's very hard if I'm not mindful. So of course, if I'm like mindfully driving and something happens, there is more chance that I kind of don't react this way. But if I don't have this mindfulness, then this automatic reaction, and actually in this way, we recognize it. And it's like, okay, we don't think that I'm a bad person, but I'm like, oh my gosh, this person helped me to see my habitual tendencies. Like and more unexpected situation is, the more chance to see what is planted inside, in my mind. And then we should be grateful because that person actually showed what problem I have. My problem is causing harm to me only. you know, because it's producing new karmic seeds. And then, okay, thank you so much. And then I come home and I sit down, or even right away, like, okay, next time something happens, I'm going to recite mantra 1 time. You know, and next time you might still like use bad words, but then right after using bad words, it's like, oh, mani padme hum. So you don't think about how bad practitioner, or like you don't think about how bad person that. You know, that's not your concern right now. You see this person like just one moment in your life, and like you cannot change that person right now. You know, like what you can do, you change your reaction, and then you're grateful to this person, and then that person accumulates good karma, because this negative action help you to progress and pass. That's how also bodhisattvas make connection with mind of others, even those others have negative mindset. So even when bodhisattva is harmed, and bodhisattva looks inside of their mind, so and uses this situation in order to transform mind, so that's will have good impact on others person karma. So no, maybe not right away, but it will plant good seeds, because that person kind of, even with harmful intention, but benefited. And it's your responsibility or your choice. You could react negatively, and that person get negative karma, and you get negative karma. But you react in the right way, and then both of you accumulate positive karma. I mean, like it's mixed. That person might still get some negative outcome. A police car may be chasing after it, or like, and he will have to pay fine. Or it's not so easy. It's not that the person becomes sane and get only good karma. The karma is very complex. Person will have to pay for something, you know, like in some way. But also, person gets that seeds planted for future for good karma, you know. So, and it's like Garchen Rinpoche said one time, like if there are two persons involved in the conflict, and that one person, for example, doing something negative or starts conflict, and another person kind of hooked up to this conflict, so both people accumulate negative karma. But then if another person does not allow themselves to be hooked on negative emotions, so then I mean, like they don't get negative karma, like they don't accumulate negative karma. So that was explanation. So it's basically, it's your choice how you react, and if you on other side. So if you kind of responsive, you know, like the unresponsive side. So if it's depending on your choice, you either you both accumulate negative karma, or you both accumulate good karma. Even the other person might accumulate partially some negative karma as well. But so, and thus you also make a connection to the mind of that person, you know. So we don't know how in future lives and how what will produce. So it's like that too. And so then with every when you notice your reactions in these kind of situations, it's your decision whether you want to build a new habit or not. And you may think that you're justified like, to have negative reactions because other person's really bad, or you might decide, okay, the other person is really bad, but I don't want my mind be poisoned. So, and also I wish for that person, like all kind of bad things to happen, but I want to protect my mind. So maybe at least I will try not to think about that person right now, not to be hooked on this chain of reaction. And here what we're talking, like even when we're sitting, for example, yeah, and we have some thoughts arising and some emotions arising. So it's okay if we have negative emotion arising. So what happens next? Do we start to think based on that emotion? For example, we think about somebody and anger arising. Do we continue that anger? Do we wish all the bad things for that person, or like whatever, do we think like secondary thoughts or no? So if we feel negative emotion right away, if we, as Frank says, we stop this chain of thought here, and actually placing the pile, like forming pile, it's also serves as this kind of like you put this bin. Okay, I'm done with this. No, no, I'm moving to the next thought. It also helps to stop that. Okay, I noted this is negative thought, or this is positive thought. Okay, let's see what else do I have, and you may have the same thoughts arising again and again and again and again, and it's okay. And also you can see now tendency, what kind of thoughts you have, and you will see you have very limited kind of reactions, like very limited. It's not so many of them, and there are like only like these 5 poisons, 5 negative emotions, or like 3 negative emotions, like ignorance, attachment, and aversion, and everything um, like comes from those 3, and you see it's actually very simple, and like it's actually very simple to understand how my mind is working. So that's what happens. I am not mindful, I forget. And then when I have reaction, I forget to notice this reaction. And then I have extra thoughts, extra emotions, and then I have conflict, or I'm unhappy. And you can see that everything comes from this forgetfulness, like you don't remember. And this exercise does not allow you to forget, because you hold. Like you can actually take like 2 beans and hold them in your, and like which one, like which one wins, So, but then next exercise, when you actually you notice, okay, I have this negative emotion, and now I'm holding this bean, and before putting it to the pile, I am trying to change this negative emotion. Okay, that's what we also did yesterday. I think about this person and angry, like I'm becoming angry. But now, instead of just noticing it, I notice it. And then like, what can I do to change this emotion from negative into positive? And sometimes it's very difficult to get rid of anger right away. But you at least can think like, okay, I want to protect my mind, so I'm not going to follow this anger, at least. So even if you cannot right away conquer this so strong emotion, you cannot get rid of it. You you look for antidote. Like either it's to give rise to compassion or love, or but if it doesn't work, okay, I accept that I cannot get rid of it right now. It's okay, but I at least understand this is not something that I want to follow. And then you can consider it turning into like it's conquering. It's the way you can do it now, even a small step. But you did something, you did not follow, and then you put the being in a positive pile. You transform it. And sometimes it takes long time. Like you have this emotion and you actually hold on it and you don't know what to do with it. And it's also like when you stay with this emotion, even when you cannot decide what to do with it, it's already partially vipassana practice. You training not only transform emotion, you training in vipassana, even though if you might not understand it yet. So you hold on this emotion, and this emotion becomes object of concentration. So at the same time, you're training in a few things. And it's always like that with any practice. It's not only noticing and changing, it's also concentrating. And before you were concentrating on outer object in practice of shamatha. And it was and the aim is to calm down your mind. So then like clarity and awareness, our natural, like our true qualities of mind shine through. But it's still maybe our mind is not so calm and stable, so we could look inside. But with this practice, you're turning, you're looking inside, and even maybe your awareness is not, you might not be able to absorb like with your awareness yet. Like you might be not reaching that certain stage of shamatha yet, but you taking your emotion as object, or you taking your feeling as object, and it's super important and it's super good level, because now you're looking inside and you're concentrating and you're holding on it. It's not fleeting. It stays here in front of you. And it's actually, usually it's hard to achieve that state. But with this kind of exercise, you can achieve the state very fast, like almost immediately, you know? And then, but right now uh, we, our aim is to transform this emotion. So even if you have to stay with it sometimes, it's okay. And then you kind of put it aside. But then later, when we when we start practicing vipassana, which can lead to the quick recognition of nature of mind, it will be much easier. We can rely on this exercise.
Truly remarkable. I mean, um, because it seems to me that you have this practice that, again, just by doing the beans, cutting off that chain of thinking. It's like in the old days before it was digital, movie, individual frames, and yet they come in fast, so it looks like there's Marilyn Monroe up there, like it's a real thing, it's an absolute kind of thing. And so even though we're not technically, no one's saying I'm practicing Vipassana, when you're doing this by moment after moment after moment, you see that it's not some absolute anger that's at you, it's just individual thoughts. And there's something you can do in every moment, which is just mind-boggling. The whole world just looks out and there's nothing I can do about all this. And so the first time to realize that you can, it's really amazing. We had one member here years ago who was a psychiatrist, and he told me after he had been, he liked the Dalai Lama and he was reading about patience. Patience is better than hatred and anger and aversion. And he told me that he had this habit of talking. His mother lived far away, no cell phones. He was talking long distance with his mother all the time, and he would always get in fights with her on the phone. And after about 6 months of coming to the Dharma Center, he was in the middle of yelling at his mother on the phone, and all of a sudden it occurred to him, I'm supposed to be practicing patience. He couldn't stop. The habit was so strong that he just kept on yelling at her, but something was different. He had seen that habit wasn't an absolute kind of thing. It had parts that he could stop it. And so that was the start of his practice. Seemingly, I didn't talk to him afterwards, but I would guess that he got better and better, because once you have even a recognition like that, that's the wisdom, that's the vipassana, that's the solution. That's the opposite of ignorance, and that's the path. And sometimes it strikes me, I'm just loving what you're teaching because it's so simple.
It is simple.
Yeah.
It is simple. There are many teachings, but it's just like there are so many teachings because there are so many beings with different, not beings,
Not
but
beings.
yeah.
So many different mothers.
Uh,
You mother?
yeah, with different types of minds, with different habitual tendencies, and it's just different methods for different people and different beings. Yeah, but but thank you for clarification about this, like in movies, like this slides. Yeah, because when you start practicing, especially with rocks and like with all this supporting elements, you see that whatever you thought is one thought, like you said, like, I have this emotion since morning until night.
Wow.
It is only one emotion.
Right.
But then we start to think, okay, then we're thinking about this and this emotion arises. Bam. You, and again, it's arising again. And you see, it's actually not one emotion that's continuously present. It's just like they're rising again and again and again and again, million times, you know, but it's because it goes so fast, you don't recognize that there, it's not the same thing. It's like million things, but there's the same thoughts, you know, like they're renewing themselves. It's like a this wheel turning, you know, again and again and again. They're different, like um, it's not only the same thing, and so that's why I say like emotion will arise again and again and again. You will recognize it, and when we actually recognize it and put it aside, and then because of habits, it's will arise again, but it's similar, but it's not the same and again. And so those gaps become wider between those thoughts, you know, like, and more we are aware of this. And yeah, and those gaps of recognition, that's when we can stop. Yeah, what you're talking about. And it's very important to understand that it's actually simple if we understand this technology and we do it like okay, do it like if we do it every day, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's actually fun, you know, like to see what's going on, and then you take it and you transform it in some into something different. It's I say like one time, like, okay, I was doing this exercise and I was like, there's somebody who I said I like, or I believed I like, or like I forced to think myself I'm a good person, you know. And then I had to recognize when I think about this person, I have negative emotion. I'm like, I feeling discomfort. I don't like, and I had to tell myself, oh, I really don't like this person. And for me, it was shock. And then I'm taking rock and like, no, I like this person. I like this person. I like this person. And you know, and it was so artificial before. It just was artificial. But it's like with habituation, with go meditation. I did it like every time I had this thought, like, no, I like this person. There is no reason for me not to like this person. You know, and finally I found I didn't have negative emotion to this person. And that's how I find it, it works. It does work. It's just habit, a habit. And at the beginning, I might not feel it genuinely, but then like, no, I don't like this person, but I want to like this person. I like this person. And after some time, like I didn't have negative feeling. And then my heart started to open, you know, and so that's how it's everything, we have everything in our mind. um, let's take a few minutes break and then we'll have questions and answers, okay? Okay, friends, we have little time for questions and answers. I don't know if we will have some time to practice a little bit, but if not, then I will kind of explain how to do this exercise with beings. But now, please ask the questions.
If you have a question, raise your hand. The mic will come to you mysteriously.
I think Chris was, yeah, you wanted to ask question?
Yeah, it was more a comment. I was just thinking about the emotion of fear as well. And a thought came up, oh, what do I have to do tomorrow morning? And then I realized, well, I've got this meeting that, and then I recognized there's this, I need to be at the meeting, and then I was trying to transform it into a altruistic perspective rather than think about, oh, I have to get up and get to this meeting. And it was a selfish ego, and I recognized that through the process. And then I recognized, oh, I can be altruistic because my colleagues also want to have something from the meeting from me, so I decided to devote or to be altruistic in doing that. And then I felt good about that. And then I realized, oh, is that me being egotistical again because I feel good about that? And then I also realized I was attached to an outcome. And so I figured this was, but that all started from fear. So then I started to say what was behind the fear. And it was my attachment to the outcome, I think. So it was more just a comment. I think that was in follow-up to Keen's question, just that was like, those were the thoughts that were coming up to me. So I was just going to share that.
Thank you. That's wonderful. But actually, you like trying to classify whatever, yeah, you say like this kind of uncertainty or fear, and then you had good feeling. So stop there. Don't try to, yeah, don't try at this moment, at this point. It's very important not to get wrapped into the, like continuous thinking. Okay, so first you recognize, so that's negative emotion, and then okay, so you had a feeling, good feeling, because you thought, okay, that your colleagues also want good outcome. So this moment, okay, that's it, you transform that. But then, of course, if we grasp for that, we try to kind of make it more complicated and think whether it's like ego-based or no. Right now, it's not important. So it's important to stop at the right moment. Of course, we can sit and contemplate and dig deeper and look like whether it's ego-based or no. But if we're digging constantly, there will be no end, at least for now. The end of it will be when we will be able to get to the essence of this essence, which is like this kind of insight that it does not have any real basis, that it's the ego based. Like right now we're trying to figure out whether this intention is ego based, but it's not the final outcome that we will try to get to. Right now it's only temporary kind of stage which help us to see what we will have to work on. Okay, and then we will transform our old like negative habits into positive habits. But then like we don't try to classify, like we don't try to get attached to this classification, because sooner or later we have to go beyond ego. This is just stage in our practice. So we should not like jump over right now. We should become very stable in understanding what usual tendencies, like on a rough level, we have, and work with these gross emotions. Because if we do that later, those questions you will not need to ask yourself, like it will be clear. Like the more habits you have with transformation of these gross emotions, the deeper you will be able to see, and it will be clear. You will see. And then finally, you will be able to see that like through the ego, what is the cause of ego arising. And that's what our point, like to see into the state, into this innate state, beyond this like primary ignorance. But what is important right now with this exercise, we're able to remember that we have to be alert. And it's also creating, also this exercise creating this habit in skill to remember. Because do you remember when we were practicing shamatha, you're concentrating on an object and you constantly forget. You're sitting and you forget. You place your attention on the object, and in few seconds you forget about it. And then you remember and you bring your attention to object again, and you forget. But with this exercise, you're also training in remembering. So this exercise serves so many points, it's like remembering, its ability to look inside, its ability to take emotions and objects. So it has so many benefits. And of course, transformation of your gross emotions, which is easy to see. And first we work on this like gross level, strong emotions. And then later, when we get habit to remember, to be attentive to what's going on inside, we will be able to work with more subtle arisings. And it will be easier because while working with gross level, that we're removing these like gross obstacles. It's like removing like very thick clouds, and then there is more clarity as a result. And ability to see subtle level is a result of this clarity. You cannot develop this ability just by wanting or just thinking about this. It needs like certain level of calmness, and when we do this, our mind is not working chaotically anymore. And it's like also thoughts are arising, but there is also like certain calmness in mind. This coming through concentration. And because of that, there is more clarity. So, and because of more clarity, we start seeing more like subtle levels. Okay, so it's with Dharma, everything will open up, or everything kind of develops or clears up by itself. That you start doing things right, and then you got to more subtle levels. And it's like not with effort, but it's because it's like the path of Dharma. It happens naturally. And you remove gross obstacles, and then you can see deeply. It's like I was explaining before, like why yogis can see their channels. It's like, it's not imagination, like yogi, when working with channels, yogi can see their subtle channels of their subtle body. And it's not result of like forceful, whatever, imagination or whatever, but it's when you train your mind and you get more clarity, and your mind, like your gross levels, like becomes, you remove these gross obstacles, like gross grasping at the emotions. And so then there's clarity. Because of that clarity, you can see subtle things. And like more clarity, more concentration, more the more ability to see subtle things. And then there is ability, like when you're training in channels, of course, at the beginning you use some visualization, but then actually yogi can see his or her channels, because yogi reaches that subtle level of concentration, because the gross level, the gross attachment already removed. And this happens naturally. It's not a siddhi. It's not something special. It's a natural ability, which is this just like opens up because yogi clarifies this gross attachment. And these are methods to do this. Methods explained very simply, and you can do it. And you, when you do this exercise, you can see how like your attention turning inside, and you're able to notice things which happens in your mind. You're able to notice your emotions, and you're able to change them. And this is way actually to more subtle way of seeing things, which will come. And they say like, yeah, realization opens like a lotus flower. It blooms, you know, by itself. This quality of mind, they bloom by itself when we work in the right way, when we purify our mind. And purification of mind means we transform first negative emotions into positive, negative habits into positive. I just want to say, like, there was question yesterday about whether it's possible to obtain like all like the final level of shamatha without being in retreat, and how like to apply it to daily life. And it's of course the practice of shamatha at the beginning at least must be done in very calm environment and for prolonged time, for periods of time. So we give ourselves enough time to calm mind down and to develop this quality or like open, like release this clarity aspect of mind. And that's what I say, when we have this more subtle perception, we can see the process which happens to our mind, and we realize that we always had this awareness aspect, and we apply this awareness in order to stabilize our mind. So it might take time even in retreat, and it's actually also depends on a person, on personal karma. So whether is it possible to attain this level in daily, like out of retreat? I think yes, but it's also depends on the style of your own life and like on your schedule and how busy your life and how much time you can dedicate to this practice. But also to apply this practice in daily life, it's important to understand that object of concentration, it's not a goal, it's just any object of concentration which we use for shamatha practice is just it's skillful means. It's like point, I think Mingyur Rinpoche was talking, this is a point of reference. So, and basically anything can be as an object of concentration. Yeah, like when we're sitting, that it can be a rock, it can be statue, it can be any object. So in daily activity, any activity can serve as this object of concentration. And so you can practice shamatha in daily activities. At the beginning, it's important to choose certain actions which does not require communication, for example, like which does not require like writing or talking. So it's just like which has mechanical repeating, you know, a job which you have, like which you repeat again, like walking, for example, you move your feet, you know, it's like actions that you repeat again and again and again. So there is some simple action which does not require thinking and which repeats again. So I found for myself at the beginning, like walking is very helpful. So basically you take walking as your reference point, as your object of concentration. So if you can do it like for 15 minutes or half an hour, so then you choose there, even like within walking, there are many things that you can take as an object of concentration. It is, for example, it can be the feeling when you touch your foot to the ground, like one foot, like for example, right foot. Every time this is like your point, like you concentrate on your feet, or you concentrate on but actually this feeling of body is very helpful for as an object of concentration. And then, for example, if you concentrate on a movement of your feet, or like on a sensation of touch, this is your object, and first you try not to forget about this object. So you go through all these stages, like the 9 stages, and first stage is the placing your attention on the object of concentration. And here your attention is like feeling of touch, like when your foot touches the ground. And that's your first stage. And second stage, it's when we're training not to forget. And every time we touch the foot with like when foot touch the ground, this is kind of remembering, like helping us to remember what we are doing. Okay. And then a skillful means can be some exercise, like for example, when we walk from one tree to another, we kind of make this statement to ourselves. So from this tree to another tree, I don't forget. So whenever I touch ground, I'm present. Okay. And Garshan Rinpoche was doing similar exercise, like when he was child, he was riding a horse, and he was deciding, like, from this rock to the next rock, I don't forget. And this also, you can, like, if you're walking in park, you choose the tree, like, which is not so far away. Like, for example, it can be like 30 feet away, like, or 50 feet. And you decide, okay, like, this is my object of concentration, this tree. And while I'm walking, it's not necessarily I have to look at this tree all the time while I'm walking, but until I reach this tree, I keep this tree in my mind. I don't forget. This is my object of concentration. I am not thinking about this, but I just like, I keep it's the same like when you keep like rock, like object in your mind when you do shamatha, sitting shamatha. So in this way, like when you reach this tree, you accomplish kind of this thing, and you state for yourself another goal, like until I reach next tree. So then if it's hard to remember, you can imagine Tara on tree, or you can imagine your guru on tree. Okay. Or you can imagine like string, like from tree to your heart. And you can imagine when it's like kind of this string pulling you and you don't forget about it. So, or look, you can imagine that you are walking on a string. There is like golden line, or like paths to liberation. And there are like stages to liberation when you reach this tree. So there are so many skillful means which help you not to forget first. And then when you apply this method of imagination, of visualization, you also cultivate pure view. Okay. Or like every time you reach the tree, you tell like you say mantra once, or like you dedicate these 5 minutes if you were able not to forget, or like 1 minute to your progress, like so you find what is inspiring you. Okay. Or like it can be like sound of bell, recorded sound of bell on your phone, and you listen to it. Or can be anything, like it's just like this is second stage, not to forget. You apply whatever your imagination gives you in order not to forget. Or like if you work in the garden, you concentrate on every action, like whatever your hands touch. Okay. If you are planting some flower, like you take whatever like instruments you take in your hands, like, so there is touch, and you are present with it. You don't think about this, but this serves as a means to be present. And then if you do this exercise constantly, at some point you will start having this feeling of presence. So you are present here and now, and you don't have to think about this. So, and when you get to this feeling of presence, that's it. From this state, you can do any action, and it will be meditation. So here is shamatha practice, serving as a means not to be distracted. And when you are not distracted, your mind becomes clear. Because any action is concept also, but we consciously take this concept as an object of concentration. And then when you, for example, like you do gardening for half an hour, and you decide, so whatever your hand touch, like you are present with this touch, but you are not grasping. It's like you are present. And then when you have this, because being in meditation, it's already training to be present. But then when this feeling of presence kind of very strong, you can release this skillful means and just be present. Because the feeling of presence, when you are present, you don't forget. And then you continue your gardening, but from this feeling of presence. And that's meditation in action. When you forget, you go back again to the skillful means. And so, if you want to get mastery in this kind of practice, you have to choose the action that you do every day. You have to make this action your practice. Like, for example, if you practice from 8 to 9 every morning on your meditation portion, so this must be also scheduled practice for every day. Okay? And you take this action, like this activity, as serious as you take your practice. Something that you do every day, and maybe at the same time, or at least not even at the same time, but like at least like for half an hour or 20 minutes. And you are very serious about it. And you apply these methods to this activity every day, every day, every day. And when you start to feel the progress, like you don't forget about this, or like you feeling sometimes you present, sometimes you lose it, sometimes you, but then you also build habit. So then anytime like later you get to this activity, you remember about practice. And that's very important habit. And then you can move to another activity. First, very simple. Maybe it's shower. Every day you take shower, you apply these methods, like you choose what to concentrate, or like you do, like if if you're not interested in practice of shamatha, you do vajrasattva, or you visualize as a pure rain blessed, like purify your body and mind. But you do it every day, like not like there is no excuse. This is your practice. This is your retreat for 15 minutes when you take shower. Okay. So, or like when you you do swimming, or like you can choose also something to concentrate on. And but it should be one specific activity, and it should be done every day. Like if you do it once a day or twice a day. So, and then when you get mastery, like when you master this activity, you can move to another, you can add another activity. Very simple, small activity. And then you do 2 activities per day. And then you add small, simple activities. And in this way, you bring practice directly into your life. And this will, especially if you reach this level when you can be present. I say at the beginning, you might experience this presence for a very short time. But when you're present, you just keep continuing this activity, and you can see, okay, being present and not grasping at such does not make you zombie. You know, like it's you're not losing ability to think, or like you're not you know, it's, I think at the beginning it's good if it's like a mechanical activity, and then you learn how apply these methods of meditation to your daily life, and you can feel how your activities which you are done with this, which you're doing with this method, how they actually start to change your mind too. So this is method of application. This is method of kind of bringing methods of shamatha practice into your daily life. But you have to be constant with it. That's an answer to this question about shamatha practice.
Question, but. Um, I think you said, and I know I've heard other teachers say that, when we recognize something in somebody else that we dislike or are really upset about, that's because we have that in ourselves. But I find that hard to believe. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I mean, I see, lots of things happening in the world these days, that are, hard to fathom and very upsetting. And, I mean, again, I just kind of hard to see me being that way. But I guess I don't know if you can comment, and I don't know, I'm not sure what to do about it.
Mhm.
I'm really struggling these days with, the state of our country, the world, and not seeing things getting better. And I always wonder, like, what can I do personally?
Mhm.
And I always come back to saying, well, I can only work in my own little world
Mhm.
with the people that I interact with. And I'm like, well, how is that going to stop the war in Ukraine? I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, I can be really nice to the guy here and give him a donut or whatever. But, and maybe every little ripple makes an impact, but, I think you understand where I'm struggling with this whole thing. And maybe that hasn't anything to do with what we're doing today, but I think it does.
Mhm.
I'm kind of rambling now.
Thank you. There's actually two questions in one. So, like, I think regarding the first statement that whatever we recognize, we have it in ourselves. It's maybe it's just like mistakenly was stated, or I also don't believe that whatever we recognize is others will necessarily have the same tendencies, because like wisdom, Buddha wisdom that recognizes that beings have this suffering and this obscuration and giving teaching. So it does not mean that Buddha has it, like I think it's when we react to somebody's negative emotions, this with the same emotions, when others emotions trigger our emotions. So that means we have it, but we can see that we have it when we like triggered, like when we give rise to the same emotions. Yeah, but seeing others' obscuration does not mean that we have the same obscuration. It's more like we have wisdom to see those obscurations, like and distinguish. Yeah, so I also like I disagree with the statement that whatever we recognize we have in ourselves. No, whatever if it triggers us like to the same emotion, then it means we have also this kind of emotion. But if it does not trigger negative emotion, if it triggers compassion, for example, so then we don't have the same tendency. But another thing is whatever, so whatever happens with the world and what to do with that. For me personally, I can say, yeah, sometimes the world seems like it's like parallel reality. It's like surrealistic, the things that happening we like could not ever imagine. It is like some people were telling, oh, maybe we're already in a Bordeaux after death. We just don't recognize it because the way things going is like makes no sense. Yeah, but for me personally, what I think there are things maybe that we can influence, but there are things we might not be able influence. We have this collective karma, we're born in. So it's what makes mm, what it forces me to do or like makes me to do it, like it gives me very strong understanding that there is nothing in this world to hold on. It's with exception on practice. It's like bodhicitta is the most precious thing. Bodhicitta is something that is never changing. And bodhicitta, it's a pillar, of everything. It's something very, nothing in world is reliable. Everything is unreliable. We cannot rely on our jobs, on sometimes on relationships, on like there is basically there is nothing that can be guaranteed that it will be reliable when we need it. So, and it gives very good perspective of impermanence. We are learning about impermanence from our like own experience. And health, life, relationships, like jobs, houses, money, like whatever is in this world. One moment we can have it, another moment everything is just upside down. There is no stability on in outside world, and it just helps us to understand this impermanence. The only one thing that is stable is bodhicitta, and it's like rooted in our mind. And that's what for me personally I understand, the only thing I can be sure that can be like reliable for me, and that I can hold on in this life and in the Bordeaux, that will continue to be reliable in Bordeaux after death, the bodhicitta. This is the only thing we have to hold on and cling on. You know, this is only pillar kind of that holds everything. So, and everything can be changed like any moment. So, and when I think about this, it's like the world can rumble, like can fall apart. Uh, but bodhicitta can never kind of, we can always trust it. It can never kind of turn away from us if we don't turn away from it. So, and with bodhicitta, it's something that the path to bodhicitta lies in our mind. It only depends on us. It's something that is not depending on anyone else or on situation in the world, but this is something that we are in charge of. And no matter what happens, cultivating bodhicitta, we're going back again to our reactions. Cultivating bodhicitta helps us to develop this wisdom. And there is still lots of things that we can do. Like, even if, I mean, like, comes to, have hope, like, we still have hope. We have beliefs that it's like good things will kind of take over, but we don't know what our karma, like, we don't know deeply inside, like what seeds of, like what karmic seeds do we have. We don't know actually what the result of all of that will be, but we know for sure that if we look in our mind and we train in our mind according to bodhicitta way, then we will be safe and we will be able to help others, and that's why I think it's very important to teach about bodhicitta, about karma. And yeah, do whatever we can do in our small world, in our relationships with others, in our community. And like right now, like new people come to center, like we can help them to understand how Dharma works, to inspire them. So then like don't have this misunderstanding about what Buddhist teachings are. So they can have understanding how precious is it, and then of course, like do whatever we do with our coworkers. Like when I worked in a hospital, like you cannot teach your patients about Dharma, but the biggest like translator of Dharma is kindness. Like looking at your reaction, like your patience. And every time it's difficult for us to not to react, if we can remember that every time we have this choice, do we cultivate bodhicitta and become stronger, or like we cultivate samsaric point of view? And then you you have one person or two people or three people you can share your wisdom with. And that's a big thing, because you are planting seeds of dharma, and like maybe that person can travel to Devachen because you inspired this person to something, like, or like when you say prayer, when you eat meat, like that this being is nurturing your body, or like understanding that whatever product you consume, how many people were involved in creating this product, and then dedicate the merit of your blessing, like give them blessing, like dedicate them your bliss, or like your pleasure, that you can continue to live and practice Dharma, because you are able to rely on service of so many people. It's all interconnected, and you planting in their mind the Dharma seeds. Sometimes even they don't realize it. Yeah. So, and you see, like we see, like Garchen Rinpoche, who can influence so many beings, and we are on a path to that. So we are aspired to reach this level, so we can affect so many beings in this life and in future lives. So, and like one small thought can, or one small reaction or decision can make big influence. Yeah.
I find it helpful too to just think about our life. I mean, his whole country was taken over. We are very spoiled in America, this period of peace that there's been since 1945. And we forget what the world is like. There is in Central Asia this tremendous desert, the Taklamakan. So Marco Polo went right from Italy to China. And there are two paths that go over. One goes over Taklamakan, the other one goes under it. And there were actually great civilizations, Central Asian empires. Megan's been trained and knows the language of Khotanese. Khotan was one of those empires. The first book printed in the world, the Diamond Sutra, printed in Chinese. It was translated from Sanskrit to Chinese by a whole team, 100 translators, but head of it was this Kamalashila. I may have his name wrong. But at any rate, good Sanskrit name, right? You think he was Indian, but he wasn't. He was Khotanese. So this whole thing has disappeared. In 1908, French explorers were digging in the sand in the Taklamakan, and they found a city buried under the sand with 100 Buddhist monks as mummies there. They had all been slaughtered by, raiders, some sort of war or something. And yet the Dharma persisted. So we see turmoil in our life and changes, and it's very upsetting. The four thoughts that turn the mind to Dharma, one of them is impermanence. We all just pretend that it's going on forever, and nothing will ever change. But it's a powerful, powerful teaching. And so I just think that I think of the history of the Dharma. I think of, Tibet and what's happened to them in our own lifetimes, and try to imagine ourselves going through that. When I see these Tibetan lamas who have gone around the world and none of them have a chip on their shoulder. That one monk, Dalai Lama said once, he said, yeah, our Chinese brothers came to Tibet. Unfortunately, they weren't invited. It's remarkable. Whereas, we get tremendously pissed off when somebody says something we don't like or uses the wrong pronoun or something. It's just unbelievable how privileged we are. So It is, it's very upsetting, but at the same time, it's the recognition of that impermanence is leading us away from this false refuge that we have to what? To refuge, true refuge.
Thank you. And I just want to give one of the examples, like in about like things. Sometimes it seems that we cannot help, but sometimes it happens like through practice. Like in 2022, we were doing 10-day retreat on White Umbrella in Roman's and Polina's house in Ukraine. They gave us their beautiful house to do retreat. But so there was blackout. We didn't have light. We didn't have like electricity. We didn't have like water for most of time. Like sometimes the light would appear for like half an hour or so, and we would like pump water, so to flush toilets, like and to cook meals. And it was very cold. It was like minus 12 degrees Celsius. I don't know how it's like, but it's like much like below freezing. And like it was on the second floor. We were practicing. It was like super cold. And so it was dark, like I said, because sunset was like after 4 p.m. So it was like mostly dark and cold. And like when people came, like I was not sure that people will stay for 10 days. And so, but we did practice for 10 days, and actually people were happy. Like, like, I don't know, there was kind of happiness. And another thing, like at that time, like Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, was periodically bombed, and we would receive like notice, okay, tomorrow there will be like this rocket attack, like the missiles, there's so many missiles. And so before we started retreat, we were expecting, like we were given notice, like, that it will be, there will be attack on Kiev. Like that day, and it did not happen. And then it was like, okay, then there will be attack again. Like they were noticing, giving us notice that, or like informing that there will be attack. And there were few like kind of times they informed us, but during this 10 days there was no single attack on Kiev. And of course, we can say like it's miracle, but maybe it's not our, like it's kind of coincidence that it happened during our retreat. But for people who were in retreat, it was very inspiring. It was very uplifting, like this is and we had another story when our Sangha member who was on the front line, he's actually a lawyer. He was never like in military, but he went to protect country, like very first day. And he was telling me stories that he was practicing White Umbrella. They were under attack, and they were like in a village, in a small house, abandoned house. There were like so many explosives in the house. And then the drone or like, something hit that house, the corner of the house. And they could not leave the house because they would be seen from the drones. So they would be attacked. So they had to hide. I don't know how many people were there. So they were hiding in this house. And they were like I think like, so, like, I don't know, half a ton of explosives, like many kilograms, many hundreds of kilograms of those explosives. And then this drone hits the corner of the house and fire started. And there was no way to put it down. So they were expecting that something will happen. And he said like, and I started to recite a White Umbrella mantra from my very heart. But they, of course, were exhausted. And he's like, I was reciting, and immediately rain started out of nowhere. And he said, like, I was reciting and just listening to this rain, and just I fell asleep. And we were so exhausted, we just fell asleep, And we woke up alive. There was no fire, This kind of things there, we can say it's the coincidence too, but it gives lots of inspiration and trust into Dharma, into protective qualities of Dharma, you know, that these things happen. And there were other stories. So, and like, it's not one story. And it shows that it's proves that it does actually help on even on a relative level. So we need to have this trust, you know, in these qualities of teachings that they also protect this kind of also generosity parameter, you know, like manifested by teachings, giving protection. And we should pray about protection, and we need to dedicate our merit to the peace, you know, to happiness. And so may the protection manifest, you know, for those who are suffering. And it does happen. Okay, so we're at the very end. Basically, if you will continue, oh, I'm sorry, Pat, you wanted to ask question? Please ask the question. Yeah, so I just want to make sure.
I just had a really quick question about the bean practice.
Mhm.
Like, is your recommendation that we should keep our eyes closed or open during that? Because for me, it was like I had a thought about how tired I was when my eyes were closed. And then when I opened my eyes, I saw the altar and I thought, oh, how beautiful the altar is. So it's like kind of,
I think here it doesn't matter. Whatever works for you the best. You can do it with open eyes, you can do it with closed eyes, and the same as with meditation, you know, like some people it's easier to meditate with closed eyes, and some other people meditate with open eyes. So the goal is that you actually concentrate on practice, but then how you do it, it's up to you.
thank you.
And thank you. And just shortly about this being exercise, if you can continue it at home, you can use like stones or like whatever object you choose. So basically, when you notice your emotions, try to kind of think over it. You know, like if you had negative thought, just rethink it over. And it might feel artificial at the beginning, but you do it again and again and again, and then you will notice how like instead of producing like this old reaction, you will be more alert, and you will start sometimes like you will have sometimes new reactions, you know. So, but yeah, of course, for this, we need to be involved in this exercise. And sometimes if you have like just 15 minutes, it's good to, and it also helps to clear the mind. Okay. So thank you everyone for participating in this practice, in these teachings. I just wanted to ask you a question. Do you think would be like would it be good to do kind of some thing like 1 month challenge or something on everyday exercise, like with which helps to see clearly what's going on with mind and transforming. Do you think it would it be like helpful, or like it's better if people practice on their own? So like any.
Are you thinking of people getting together to do that? Regularly?
Online.
Online.
Maybe like half an hour a day or 1 hour a day or like 45 minutes a day, like for 1 month to get like this habit and like to get really deep into this exercise and to recognizing what's going on in our mind, and like getting this mastery over like transformation of negative emotions. Do you think it would be helpful, or like or would it be too long? Like or like we can experiment. So I just like anything to support, like to give support in practice, to help to build this habit of doing this every day. So, and like clarify.
Yeah, we would need to find a time.
Not right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and organize. We can ask and see, but I think it's a good idea.
or like it's like I mean like not maybe like even for like if people don't want to participate, I mean like if we can, it's also like for other sanghas as well. They just like to give support to people who feels that they need support.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we did, yeah. So maybe it's like not real retreat, but it's like kind of gives feelings that every day is happening, the
People
same,
touch base every day.
the
right,
same, yeah.
Right. And people even outside of our immediate Sangha.
But
can
that's
do
what I'm
good.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah, it's a unifying thing. That'd be good.
So I should think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, friends, so thank you so much. Let's conclude.
Page 23. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas. Divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis
dwelling
in the 10 directions. Please hear my prayer. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my life. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. And through that, may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra, the time of death or in the bardo. By the power of the merit I've accumulated, the power of the merit in samsara and nirvana in the 3 times, and by the power of the primordial merit of Buddha nature, by all this may I and all sentient beings quickly attain perfect enlightenment state of Buddha. By the merit I have accumulated, may I overcome all erroneous attitudes and reach the omniscient state. May all sentient beings who are suffering in the ways of birth, old age, illness, and death be free from the ocean of samsara. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. May the teachings of the great Rikunpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, contemplate in peace through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Gong ri ra wei gu wei jin gong su, and dong de wa ma lu zheng wei nen, and ro de wang hen hen yang so yin, ya me jin hen ma lu hen yu jin, wan ro gun du sa kya sen gen. And on and jing the way, Tangi jing. Undang jo me grano, jo. Lundro jetso lame, jaben so. Bonjo zumi and ma, lin ma la. Yang yi wang jo jetso, yang Dokam Josu Gangi Prinsu Yin Yang Mo Nung Chunin Ma Palen Gajen Bude Kalgarden Ning Du Gyal Den Yang Dre Ningam Du Kutob Dorje Nabu Kujogi Remain and may Gurji Dang and many Magarchen Rabento. Oh, Mani.